Hi, I'm Joni Patry, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about the month of March. And this is actually the most eventful month astrologically of the year. We have so much going on. Let me just name a few of the things that are going on this month. Venus is going to be retrograde. Mercury is going to be retrograde, and they're in the same sign, retrograding back and forth with each other. Saturn is going to change signs. Uranus is going to change signs. And most of all, we have a spectacular solar and lunar eclipse this month. So I have got so much to tell you about and what to expect for this eventful month. But before I do so, I got to remind everyone to sign up for my free newsletter where you can get all of my predictions delivered to your email address weekly. Go to galacticcenter.org. While you're there, notice all the amazing features I'm offering, such as my Patreon class, where you can be part of a spiritual community. We can meet every single week. And not only that, you can even win a free reading with me if you participate in my Patreon. So that's one thing. Now, another thing that I have going is the university has started. If you want to learn Vedic astrology, now is the time. Become my student. Go to universityofvedicastrology.com. And remember, if you want your own personal predictions from your own personal chart and all of the transits in your calendar, on your phone or computer to know what every day is good for, you're going to want my Galactic Planner. Go to galacticplanner.com and you will have the stars, the planets, everything right in the palm of your hands. So check all of these opportunities out. Now let's get going and start talking about what to expect this astrologically most eventful month of the year. First, on the very first day of March, we have Venus is going to turn retrograde. And Venus will be retrograde from March 1st to April 12th. Venus is actually the sign that spends the least amount of time retrograde. So it is very, very important when it turns retrograde. It turns retrograde once every 18 months, which is a year and a half. And it has this incredibly symbolic cycle. I want to share with you some of the interesting features about this. But what I do want you to know right offhand is that Venus is the planet that rules most of all and foremost relationships. And when I say relationships, I'm talking about marriage, romance, love. That's what I'm going to be focusing in on. Because when Venus turns retrograde, issues around love and marriage and romance will come up for all of us. Relationships are one of the most important things in our lives. Truly it is. It what brings us together, creates families, have children, gives us a sense of connection to another, and share our lives with someone. Love brings us joy and happiness. This is Venus. We all want to know where Venus is and its cyclic process because it reflects so much about what's going on in our daily lives. And one thing I can tell you, it can bring back old flames, old relationships while Venus is retrograde. But for a lot of you that say, I don't want any old relationship back, a lot of my clients definitely immediately jump in with that. It's not necessarily that it will bring someone back from the past, although many times it does. But in many cases, it really is a healing for people. in the area of relationships. So old scenarios in our mind will reoccur, and with that, there is a healing. Because if relationships haven't been working out so well in your life, this gives you the opportunity to reassess, reevaluate what went wrong and how to fix it. I mean, probably one of the, if not the most talked about thing in readings when I give a reading is relationships. What's going on with my husband? When will I meet someone? Will I get married? What is my partner going to be like? These are the most commonly probably asked questions in a reading. Aside from money, those are the two top dogs, if I have to say, what are people most interested in? So this month gives us opportunities to heal, reflect, review what we need to know about how we relate and our love experiences in terms of relationships. Now, let me give you some of the fascinating information that I can tell you about with the cycle of Venus and how its cyclic process is so symbolic and what it tells us about human nature and mankind. And that is, well, as I said before, Venus is the least to go retrograde. Every year and a half, 18 months, it turns retrograde, and it remains retrograde for about 40 days. And you'll start seeing very symbolic meanings behind these numbers in its cyclic process, because for the most part, usually when it is retrograde, it stays in a sign for 4 months. Now, normally Venus, when it's retrograde, when its cycle process, it only stays in a sign for 1 month, but while it's going back and forth retrograde, it will stay in a sign for approximately 4 months. As a matter of fact, Venus, while it's in the sign of Pisces, it actually entered the sign of Pisces January 27th, and it will remain in Pisces because of its retrograde process till the last day of May 31st. So that's approximately, give or take, 4 months. And another thing is all the numbers that we're going to trace with this, because when Venus goes retrograde, there's a point where it's going to cross over the sun. So exactly conjunct the sun. And this happens approximately about 2 weeks after it turns retrograde. And then it will conjunct the sun. The day that Venus will conjunct the sun will be March 22nd. And right after its conjunction with the sun, it disappears completely in the sky for about 8 days. And actually the ancients thought, something was extremely wrong when Venus completely disappeared. Because there is this process of Venus where it appears in the evening hours, in the nighttime. It's called an evening star. And when it conjuncts the sun, then it reverts behind the sun and becomes a morning star. And there has been a lot of conversation as to what this means. As a matter of fact, the ancients always believed that when Venus became a morning star, that there could be more trouble going on in the world. So it becomes a morning star after around March 22nd, which means things are going to get more turbulent. As a matter of fact, they thought it was the beginning of wars, which obviously we don't have wars every year and a half, so that's not the case. But it does make things a little bit more traumatic on planet Earth. So once it becomes a morning star, it will remain so for about 9 months. And until its next retrograde process. And then it is the evening star for about the same amount of time. But when this 9-month interval is so symbolic, think about what 9 months symbolizes. It is the gestation period of a human being, which is so deeply meaningful. Relationships, we come together, we create, we procreate, we have children. This is all part of why we're brought together. We're supposed to procreate and have, next generations of children. But what is really interesting about this number 8 and Venus is that if you trace the whole cyclic process of Venus as it goes retrograde, it takes 8 years for it to complete an entire cyclic process where it will return back to turn retrograde practically on the same day 8 years prior. Well, every 8 years. So what I'm saying is if you go back 8 years ago, month of March 2017, Venus was retrograde in Pisces again. Same degree, everything. It's this beautiful, perfect cycle. So what I'm trying to tell you with this process is if you go back to March of 2017, rehash what happened then. If it was anything really symbolic, especially in the area of relationships, it will happen again. So if you met somebody, this would be the time you'd meet someone again. If you broke up with someone, this is the time it could happen again. So I want you to reflect and think back to 2017, around the month of March, when Venus went retrograde in the same portion of the zodiac before. So Venus in this cyclic process forms a pentagram as its whole cyclic process of 5 different times of the retrograde. And this takes, in accordance, about 8 years. Now, let me talk about what the pentagram means. The pentagram, the 5-pointed star, well, number 1, the number 5, is a number of vibrancy, freedom, motion, happenings. It is a wonderful number of new beginnings. So another thing about the number 5 and the pentagram, it is such a positive symbol. In Japan, they look at it as the 5 elements. So this is extraordinary that Venus has this formation in the sky. And so let me go over some of these symbols again to give it more credence and meaning. So every 18 months, Venus turns retrograde, which is actually the same amount of time that Rahu and Ketu remain in a sign, 18 months. And then for 8 days, it remains invisible, but then it takes 8 years to complete the pentagram of the 5-pointed star. And what's so interesting is when it becomes a morning star or an evening star, it will stay for 9 months as a morning star or an evening star. Now let's talk about that 9-month process, gestation, human beings. This is the process of birth as a human being. And what this time should be about for all of us is healing our relationships. Now, many of you have heard that a relationship is simply a reflection of ourselves. We vibrate and attract someone who has something on the same vibrational frequency as ourselves. So the people that we attract into our life are immeasurable as to what they teach us about ourselves. And if you've been attracting the wrong relationships and difficult relationships, there is something extraordinarily meaningful for you to learn about yourself. And as you heal yourself, you heal the issue around relationships. And this opens a door for you to have healthy relationships. So this is a time of healing. This is a time of bringing in love, marriage, and relationships. And if it's never worked that well for you, it's a time for you to heal it, because it can. It can work for everyone. So this Venus cycle, look back once again and realize what happened in March of 2017 as to what this year of 2025 is here to heal for you. Because through this, you can find a newfounded happiness and joy in your life. So the next retrograde I want to talk about this month is Mercury retrograde. And Mercury will turn retrograde March 15th. And it will be retrograde through April 7th. And during this time, it will be in Pisces as well. And both Mercury and Venus are going to be retrograding back and forth, but they're going to be very closely conjunct most of the time. As a matter of fact, on March 11th, Mercury and Venus will conjunct at 14 degrees of Pisces. Now, I want you guys to think about your charts if you know it. What do you have at 14 degrees of Pisces? This is meaningful. This will be a time of great reflection and healing. Remember, retrogrades are always an opportunity to go and look back at a time before to heal what it's all about. Now, Mercury in its retrograde process, all of these retrogrades are uprooting things from the past. And this gives enormous healing to uproot and heal so many issues from our past. And what it will do through understanding things that maybe didn't work in the past, this is giving great awareness and a healing for a better future. And this goes with our personal lives as well as what's going on globally. Now this month we have so many planets in Pisces. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. Therefore, this is so much about healing the past and resolution, bringing things to an end, because it is the last and final sign of the zodiac. And so much is about to change. And one thing that I'm going to talk about that is about to change, that is remarkable, is Uranus. Uranus stays in a sign for about 7 years. And on March 18th, it is going to transit into the sign of Taurus, where it will remain. Now, it's already been in Taurus a short time, but retrograded back into Aries, but it's going to go back into Taurus on March 18th and remain there. Now, and it will remain there all the way to the year of 2031. Specifically, July 7th of 2031, where it will then transit out of Taurus and into Gemini. But while it's in Taurus, this is huge. And actually, it's getting ready to go into Taurus. And by April, it will be back in the same position in Taurus that it was last July of 2024. And this is important because it will be on the fixed star Agul. Agul is the most demonic star in the heavens, and it deals with beheading. It deals with a lot of really dark, ugly things. And I'll tell you, the last time Agul was there was last July, And guess what happened last July? That was the assassination attempt of Donald Trump. So we have some very interesting things to be looking forward to, especially in April when Uranus returns to that same degree marking it was last July. So we're going to be looking at Uranus changing signs, but most importantly, I want you to know that Saturn, on the 29th, the day of the solar eclipse, the 29th of March, we have Saturn changing signs. And always remember, I'm a Vedic sidereal astrologer. That's why I'm talking about these placements that possibly, if you follow Western astrology, are different. Yes, this is Vedic sidereal astrology. Sidereal means stars. It means it's the true placements astronomically in the heavens. Research it if you don't know what I'm talking about. But the last time that Saturn was in Pisces with Rahu was 1968. Now, they come together about every 11 years, but not in the sign of Pisces. So when they were together last time in Pisces, and there's only 2 months that Saturn and Rahu remain in this sign together, and that will be from March 29th till May 29th. But while they're together, this brings up instances that happened in 1968. A lot went on. But most importantly, what I think needs to be noted was that we had 2 serious assassinations in '68. It was the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. as well as Robert Kennedy. Saturn, Rahu, and Pisces. And this will be an incredibly dangerous time. And I think March through July are the times to really watch, but March really through through May, but April being the most dramatic. But you see, eclipses set things off. Saturn just entered into the sign of Pisces. So we have quite a lineup of planets in the sign of Pisces. But before I get to that, let me talk a little bit about, people are asking, why have there been so many airline crashes going on? And one of the reasons I foresee is that planet Uranus, which rules airplanes and aircraft, is teetering back and forth between the last degree of Aries, while we had a lot of these airplane crashes, and the first degrees of Taurus. And this going back and forth in this portion of the zodiac is very difficult. The very end degree of a sign represents endings. And another thing is, during this time, we've had Neptune conjunct Rahu. Rahu is another indicator of airplanes, of technology, of the future. And as we have Rahu with Neptune, this means there's many things we can't see. Neptune is the planet of things we can't see. Secrets, deception, fog, not seeing clearly. And with it coming together with Rahu, Neptune is exaggerated in this area. So there's so much we can't see, and I guarantee you there is so much beneath the surface that we can't see that is about to come out. We're about to be awakened to some secrets and corruption beyond belief. I've been talking about this for so long. People laughed at me for so long, and now it's all surfacing, and we haven't seen nothing yet. We're scratching the tip of the iceberg. It's here, it's now. All of these planets are revelations telling us what we can expect. But just realize this Neptune Rahu together is one of the reasons for the problems with the aircraft. Another thing is Saturn being in the sign of Aquarius and Mars being in the sign of Gemini. Gemini deals with air travel, and Aquarius is an air sign, and they've been aspecting one another quite tightly as Mars is retrograde in Gemini. It's another reason why we've had so many fatalities with airplanes and crashes. So people have asked me that. This is the reason why. And let me tell you, it's never just one thing. This is a combination of things. The Uranus, the Rahu Neptune, and the Mars Saturn. So be aware that this will still continue for a while. Now the next thing I want to talk about, which happens March 14th, is the lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse happens 2 weeks before the solar eclipse. And sometimes a lunar eclipse happens after a solar eclipse, but this time it happens 2 weeks prior. And this lunar eclipse is really interesting because it occurs at 29 degrees, and it is 29 degrees of Leo that the moon is at this eclipse. And since November all the way through April, every full moon, a lunar eclipse is a full moon where it comes together with the nodal axes of Rahu and Ketu. But every full moon from November through April occurs at 29 degrees. 29 degrees, here's another indication of being at the end, finality, endings are happening. And that always means we're on the precipice of a brand new beginning. Everything is about to be reborn. This is remarkable. Now, what's interesting about this full moon or lunar eclipse is that the sun, remember an eclipse is a full moon. A full moon is when the sun and the moon are exactly opposed to each other. But in this instance, the sun is within 1 degree of Saturn. Saturn is the karmic planet. Saturn is heavy. Saturn deals with there is just a really heavy feeling going on in the world. People are feeling a sense of what is about to occur. And yes, something is about to occur. May not happen exactly at the time of eclipses. Eclipses are the trigger that starts a cycle for 6 months till the next eclipse. So this lunar eclipse represents another indicator of things coming to an end. But not only that, it's not just about that. It means a new beginning, and it means something is brewing underneath the surface. This is incredible. So let me jump now to the solar eclipse. That is going to be happening March 29th. If you look to where all the planets are during this time, there is an enormous stellium of planets in Pisces. Stellium simply means 3 or more planets together. So at this time of this beautiful solar eclipse that is going to occur in Pisces, the sun and the moon come together. A solar eclipse is a new moon when it's tied up with Rahu and Ketu. So we have the sun and moon together with Rahu, Venus, Mercury, and they're retrograde by the way, Neptune, and hours after the eclipse on March 29th, Saturn changes signs into Pisces. So we have this alignment. This is unbelievable to look and see that the concentration of planets all in the last and final sign of the zodiac occur. And what I do in my monthly newsletter. If you're getting it, you will get all of this information in detail, all outlined, all written out. And the reason why I'm telling you this right now is I give a long excerpt from my new book, and I have to show you it because I'm quite proud of it. This is my new book, just came out, World Predictions 2024 to 2042. What is our future? I go through all these eclipses and patterns and changes of the outer planets that predict our future in great detail. So let me give you a little bit of what I said in this book about this solar eclipse that is going to reflect what is going to be happening from the end of March through the next solar eclipse in September. Incredible things are about to occur. And what I talk about in here is that, well, one thing, and I wrote this book a while ago before it was published, I said this eclipse involves Saturn, Rahu, Neptune, retrograde Venus, retrograde Mercury, with the sun and the moon. This is one of the most eventful times in history. Transiting Saturn is in a trine with Mars, which is a strong aspect in naughty astrology. This connects Mars and Saturn, and they're in the air signs. And this pertains to travel. This is what I wrote, which means problems with travel, with airlines. Also problems with weather, severe problems with weather. And then the next thing that I talk about are the nakshatras that this eclipse and these planets are in, because many of the planets during this time are in Uttara Bhadrapada. These are the nakshatras in Pisces. And Uttara means the latter happy feet. And Purva Bhadrapada deals with the former happy feet. But the feet are reflected as they're symbolic of a funeral cot in the ancient Vedas. And the funeral cot simply is the front of the casket and the back of the casket that we bury people in. So the Bhadrapadas have to do with death. And another thing that this has to do with is events that are serious, that are going to be happening with water, the oceans, the seas. We're going to see some major events and explosions involving water and extreme problems with drowning and floods and storms due to this. Remember, Pisces is ruled by Neptune, god of the seas, Poseidon in Western astrology. But this is definitely deals with funerals and death. And let me just say this. There is so much to be looking at, because when I look to further see what could this mean, could this mean something, where is this happening in the world? I always say to look at the charts of world leaders of different countries, but I couldn't help but notice for President Trump, he has a Leo ascendant. All of these Pisces planets will be in his 8th house. 8th house is the house of death. Then I looked at the vice president, J.D. Vance. He has a Leo rising as well. All these planets are in his 8th house of death and endings and transformation. So then I looked at Elon Musk, because he's kind of involved in all this, like it or not. He has a Leo moon, putting all these planets in the 8th house of endings, death, with the Bhadrapadas, Uttara and Purva Bhadrapada. And so then I said, well, let me look at the United States chart. which put all these planets in the 4th house. With all those planets in the 4th house in mundane astrology for a country's chart represents the homeland, the lands. So this could be an indication of an attack on the land in the United States. So there is a lot to be concerned about. Another thing that I look at are the fixed stars. And when I look at the fixed stars, and if you do get my written out newsletter, and it's also in my magazine, Joni Patry's Astrology Insights, look at my magazine. It is an incredible work of art. Truly it is. If you've never seen it, you need to check it out. It's amazing. It's all online. Beautiful magazine with all sorts of interesting writers and topics. You'll really want to read it. But here is what I'm saying. I looked at a lot of the fixed stars with this. And the one that is activated during the time of this eclipse is that we have the planets conjunct, and here are the planets, Venus, Mercury, and Neptune will all be conjunct the fixed star Sheet. And Sheet is spelled S-C-H-E-A-T. It is the fixed star of tragedy. And a lot of times it deals with shipwreck in the oceans. We've got some problems about to happen. And we do have things to look for in terms of tragedy. And this is all coming up around this time period, March and April. So here is what I think you personally will get out of this time period, because it is so monumental that things are coming to an end, but it is birthing a new beginning. And I know this is birthing a new spiritual awareness in the world. And this is an opening, and what will happen is I see an evolution in the consciousness of mankind during this time. These explosive events are going to create a new awakening for the consciousness and the awareness of the masses, of the people. They're waking up. This is remarkable. And I know that Rahu traveling with Neptune, this will uncover the illusions that have been blinding people. People have been completely blinded for so long. Probably, yes, it is the media around the world. And people are waking up. They're like, no, they've been lying to us about so many things. It is time that we see the truth. So here is the big clincher I want you to understand, that everyone is waking up a little bit more. I'm not going to say it's a total awakening, because it's not. But the spiritual truth is coming out, and people are waking up. And there are many levels of advancement that will take humanity to a new level of understanding. This is actually unveiling a new world and a new consciousness that is just beginning now. And with that said, this is one of the best times to be on planet Earth, to watch this new emergence and awakening. It is now. So get ready and receive. All of you who are aware are going to take your awareness to a higher level, and this will bring us joy and happiness here on planet Earth. Yes, we've got to go through a lot to get there, because remember, it's an ending before a new beginning. But this is the month that It is a turning point. So with that, I'll close. Remember, if you would like more information on me, if you would like to sign up for my free newsletter, get a reading, check out all the things I'm offering on Patreon, go to my website, galacticcenter.org. And remember, if you want to get my book, it's on Amazon, or you can find it on my website, as well as don't forget the planner. The planner is something I am so proud and happy of. If you can't afford a reading, and many of us cannot at this point in time, get the planner. It gives you all your aspects, all the planets, what they're doing to you personally in your chart. Go to galacticplanner.com and be guided by the stars. This is the best thing we can do for ourselves in this current world now. Thank you.